Although the weather was questionable that morning, the clouds were forming. A little girl made her daily trek to school. As the afternoon progressed, the wind whipped up, along with thunder and lightning. The mother of the little girl felt concern for her daughter, that she would be frightened on her way home from school, and she herself feared that the electrical storm might harm her child. Following the roar of thunder, lightning would crack through the sky. Full of concern, the mother quickly got into the car and drove along the route to her child's school. As she did so, she saw the little girl walking along. But at each flash of lightning, the child would stop, look up and smile. Another and another were to follow quickly. With each, the little girl would look up at the streak of light and smile. When the mother's car drew up beside the child, she lowered the window and called to her. "What are you doing? Why do you keep stopping?" The child said, "I'm trying to look pretty. God is taking my photograph." While we know that God doesn't live up in the clouds, is human or man-shaped and takes photographs, yet the story is appealing, especially the lack of fear the little girl displays. The Christmas stories are about alternative concepts of God, the power these concepts have, and the virtue of fearlessness. There is a great distance between Rome and a Bethlehem hillside. In kilometers, it's about 2,657. In power, it's the distance between authoritarian power with large resources and armies and the powerlessness of a pregnant Palestinian teenager and her soon-to-be-born child. She has no resources, no army. In theology, it's the distance between the god called Caesar, that is the emperor cult that Rome promoted, and the little baby Jesus whom no one called a god, and yet whose later followers would find in him divine truth. The angelic choir, maybe a bit like our choir tonight, sang words identifying Jesus as Lord and Savior, plagiarizing titles belonging to Caesar. Who is the real Lord and Savior? And probably more importantly, what on earth can Lord and Savior mean when used of Jesus? For he neither sought nor exercised power over others. He neither sought nor had an army. He never wanted to be worshipped, but wanted people to follow a topsy-turvy God who could turn the world upside down. So these are the first two concepts of God: Caesar worship, male, distant and powerful, and manger worship, lowly, marginal, and without power. Then there is the distance between the Jerusalem temple and the defiled Bethlehem barn. In kilometers, it's about 9.6. In power, it's the distance between an authorized religion that provided worship, sanctuary, and order for most Jews, and the unauthorized Jewish religion that would grow up around Jesus. The temple was holy. The barn with animals and feces was defiled. The temple was ordered. The barn deliberately upset social order. At the barn, shepherds, best known for their crooked thieving habits, were welcomed. Keepers of the law, military, security personnel weren't invited. At the barn, Zoroastrians, the Magi, regarded as heathen foreigners, were welcomed. Priests, the keepers of ordered certainty and orthodox faith, didn't get an invitation. Outside of the safe and acceptable precincts of religion, the Christmas stories point to a different God, one who is at home with the marginalized. The Bethlehem saga was written by early followers of Jesus. Bravely, they dared to question the assumption of others' religion. They challenged the entrapment of God in Roman finery and priestly piety. They challenged the power of that God over their lives. They wanted to set people free to recognize God among the little people and the rebels. They believed in the last being first, the first last. They believed that poor widows were more acceptable to God than the church-going well-heeled. They believed in a vision of a topsy-turvy God for a radically reordered world. And they, like the little girl in the story, exhibited fearlessness when the clouds darkened, the heavens thundered, and the lightning cracked. When someone meets me on the street or in a cafe or office, I'm often asked how one can experience the spiritual today. They are people who are often bruised by religion, by the moral standards of others, and by life itself. In many cases, the gods of authorized religions have been the bruisers. Barbara Brown Taylor once wrote, Jesus said, when we welcome children, we welcome God. So get down on the floor, laugh like a train, and forget about earning a living. For this is God time, nurturing your soul. Many of us don't have such opportunities with children, but the principles of playing, getting down, laughing, and forgetting other responsibilities are still good advice. God is not just found among the serious and grown-ups. Indeed, I often think God gets bored and goes outside to look at the trees and play in the dirt. God is not just found in churches, temples, and mosques, but in backyards, community centers, and collecting cockles at the beach. God is not found just among those doing social and community work, important as those things are. God is found among the little things, the unpredictable things, the surprising things. Christmas says that a suckling babe is a sacred sight. A heart open to possibility is the playground of God, and a questioning mind is a holy one. No matter how tainted, rejected, or despised you might feel or have been. So as the angel said, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of being different, thinking differently, laughing and causing offense. For the caretakers of certainty, power, and religion will find anyone offensive who doesn't conform. Here's another cute story of someone who isn't afraid. There was a kindergarten teacher who observed her classroom of children while they drew. She would occasionally walk by to see each child's work. As she got to one little girl who was working diligently, she asked what the drawing was. The girl replied, "I'm drawing God." The teacher paused and said, "But no one knows, dear, what God's like." Without missing a beat, the little girl said, "Well, they will in a minute.